Hello students, myself your botany mentor, yes, Dr. Mukesh Kumar. So today we are, yes, very lucky that today I am going to start Morphology of Flowering Plants, yes, your NCERT chapter 5. And it's very important chapter. You know, every year about 3 to 4 questions used to come. So we have to just learn this morphology of flowering plants one by one. So today we have selected to discuss root. Before that, we will have a general information about the morphology of flowering plants, right? So let's discuss about its syllabus. Yes, you all know here we are in what is Botanica and we are discussing EBOG, exploring your botany A to Z. This is the snapshot of morphology of flowering plants. Yes, you see here how we have to study total 9 subtopics we have, starting from root, then leaf, stem, leaf, flower, inflorescence, fruit, seed, some technical description of a typical flowering plants, and later on important 4 families, right? So yes, first of all, what should our forthcoming topics? First, morphology. Whenever you will study the morphology in our NCERT, a very important terminology has been used, that is taxonomy, also systematics, and very important, yes, reductional biology. Very important, but usually we skip it. About the reductional biology, what is reductional biology? I will inform you during this lecture. So we also study about flowering plants, that is the angiosperm. What is angiosperm? Why it's called flowering plants? We will study diversity of flowering plants, then root, definition, characters, types of fruit, right? Then region of fruits, different regions are there in root, right? Stepwise we will study mesomatic, elongation, maturation, right? And then very important, modification of fruit. And at last but not least, I will give you honey of botany of this root, that is through NCERT. All the examples of your NCERT will be learned here by important and very sweet mnemonics, right? Yes, see. This is the first page of your NCERT, but don't go through this. Relax, I am here with you. Try to summarize this. Mainly 3 points is very important here, 3 terminology. First one is, yes, first one is this biological system, right? So whenever you talk about the biological system, nowadays we are very much clear. Biology means botany is there, zoology is there. Nowadays not only 2, rather microbiology is also there, biotechnology also there. As a whole, it is biology. So you can say this biology as well as the biological system is extremely complex, as its emergent properties, showing emergent nature, and they are going to grow and grow up. As a result, scientists found that no, we have to make it easy for students as well as teachers, so that student can easily understand the different biological processes and their branches. Only to make easy, interesting, clearly understanding of the students, there is a term that is called reductional biology. By name it is clear. Reductional means reducing. It is going to reduce. Biology, yes, as I told you, it's a very extremely complex. Emergent properties is there. Emergent logy you can also say. So what happened? Earlier we have to use this physiology, evolution and structural organization, including morphology as well as anatomy together. Right? So what happened? This reductional biology emphasizes to understand all these complex things very easily and separately. So what happened? What is this reductional biology? So it deals with the understanding the complex thing easily. As I told you, biological process is, yes, it's complex. Biological system is complex, and when you are adding this reductional biology, it is going to make it easy. Isn't it? See what the NCERT has also written here. See that when you are talking about the description of diverse form on the earth, then what happened? You'll find gross structural features, both external morphology, internal anatomy. Okay, so what happened? See what it is describing. Living phenomena were recorded as a part of description, where experimental biology, more specifically that is physiology, was established as a part of biology. Naturalist, see, naturalist, Mr. Nature is also being involved here. So described only biology, and this biology, right, biology remained as a natural history for the long time. Mind well, earlier we used to say natural biology, natural history of organism. This is the biology. So nature was involved. In nature, broadly we say plant and animals, that is botany or zoology, right? Now so this description by itself was amazing in terms of detail. So while the initial reaction of the students could boredom, as I told you, as a whole, if all the branches will be taught to you, you will get confused. So in order to make you not confused, rather understand all the branches stepwise, what happened? Yes, they say later on reductionalist biology. Reductionalist biology means to say the scientist works for reductional biology. What happened? Where living processes drew more attention from scientists than the description of life form and their structure. Right? So what happened? See how they are telling that physiology, that is the evolutionary biology, right, a structural biology of plant as well as animal, means plant morphology and the animal morphology, including a structural basis of physiological and the behavioral phenomenon, were described together. So how it is very complex. That's why this biological system is very or extremely complex, and its emergent properties, and it's only reductional biology that will make you understand separating these branches as physiology, evolution, structural by organization. Yes, we have to also separate morphology and anatomy. Right now, so we have concluded this whole para through the important 3 points. Biological system, yes, you know biology deals with the study of living organisms and their life processes. It's really a very extremely complex and emergent process properties, but in order to understand all this thing very stepwise, we have reductional biology. Earlier, as we found that we studied as a whole natural phenomenon, natural history of the organism, including botany, zoology and all. In nutshell again, we concluded physiology, evolution and structural organization. Indeed, it's fact that all these things are related to each other. But we have to go step by step so that we can get a real taste of this interesting biology, right? So fine. Now come to the point about the morphology of flowering plants, right? So what is morphology? We all know that morphology also comes from the Greek word. What we have is morpho or morphos, that stands for forms, and logos means study. So by it's clear that if you are going to study the forms of a body, a structure of a body, that is external structure, not internal structure, without touch, or better to say without cut. You can touch, no problem, okay, but without cut you have to study. So what is morphology? How will you define it? It deals with the study of forms and structure of plants. Here we are talking about plants. So plants and their organisms. Organs means to say we have to study root, stem, leaf, flowers, inflorescence, fruits. These are the organs. And if you are going to study these all forms of a plant, that is a flowering plant, that is called, yes, morphology of that plant. So morphology of plant. So if you are talking about plant, and this plant must be the, yes, it must be the flowering plant. So how will you characterize this morphology of flowering plants? Yes, it is only characterized by the presence of root, stem, leaf, flower and fruits. Remember, yes, again I told you root, stem, leaf, flower and fruits, right? So whenever you will only study the root, stem, leaf, no flower, it is the morphology of, yes, pteridophyta, right? But if you are finding, yes, there also you are going to add flower, but not fruits, means to say you are talking about gymnosperm, but finally you are adding fruits, and this fruit comes with the angiosperm only, right? So whenever you are going to characterize the angiospermic plant, any angiospermic plant, you have to study at least 5 important their organs, and this is root, stem, leaf, flower and fruits. Okay, now so what happened when you are going to study all these organs? Then what happened? If you will organize, if you will recognize them, if you will identify them very well, what happened? You will be able to classify them. So what happened? What is the role of this morphology? Yes, what is the importance of this morphology? This morphology plays key role in classification of plants. Yes, you all know that when you are going to classify a plant, what you do in classification, you just do grouping of plants. We are talking about plants, and this grouping is based on, yes, their similarities, similar characters, as well as their dissimilar characters, variation. So on the basis of their resemblance and variation, we are very easily group the plants, and this grouping of plants is called classification, isn't it? So if you are going to group the plants, then what happen? You get a very good, you are going to arrange the plants, and if you are going to arranging the plants with the help of important rules and procedure, this is called, yes, it is called taxonomy. So for classification, the rules and all the procedure which is controlling, this is nothing rather taxonomy, that provide you the arrangement of the plants in a very systematic manner, right? But when you are going to add systematics, what is systematics? The systematic is nothing rather taxonomy plus phylogeny. You should go through my previous YouTube channel, Hortus Botanica, and especially living plant. You will go in detail about this, all the term taxonomy and phylogeny. So in nutshell, I will tell you here that evolutionary features comes under, yes, if you are going to study the evolutionary strand, evolutionary character of organism, this is phylogeny. And if you are going to classify the organisms, right, and studying on the basis of their evolution, this is called systematics. So see, first of all you have to group very easily, and after grouping you have to follow the rules that where we have to classify the plants, either on the basis of taxonomy, plant, flower, leaf, very broad. See, if you are finding that we have a leaf of the parallel venation, monocot, reticulate venation, dicot, fine. You are finding that no, we have this androecium or gynoecium, calyx, corolla, their number. And if you are finding the number of calyx, corolla, androecium and gynoecium, it's only 4. Tetramerous plant is there, as we know about the Brassicaceae, only single family we have. So what we are doing? We are studying this taxonomy with the help of classification. And how we are classifying? Only by their grouping. How we are grouping? Only by the getting the knowledge of morphology, that is the forms and structure of plants and their organs, right? So this morphology play very important role in classification of plants as well as taxonomy and systematics, right? Now, yes, see, whenever you talk about the flowering plants, it means angiosperms, right? So what happens? See, so first of all, this angio, we all know angio means concealed, okay, and sperms means seed. Seed is well covered. So what happened when you are talking about the angiosperm? It is being characterized by important these 3 characteristics, right? First, you know, they are also classified by the presence of, as I told you, root, stem, leaf, flower and fruit. So these are the important 5 organs on the basis of which you can identify it's an angiospermic plant. But beside that, you can also characterize them, yes, first by the presence of xylem vessel. Yes, xylem vessel is the characteristic features of angiosperm. This xylem vessel is also not present in all gymnospermic plants. Yes, remember, usually gymnospermic plants are vesselless plants, isn't it? Although first time vessel came in gymnosperm, netum, but all plants vesseled only in flowering plant, that is angiosperm. That's why the presence of xylem vessel is the characteristic feature of angiosperm. First. Second, presence of seed inside fruit. Yes, the 4th organ. Remember about the fruit. As I told you about the gymnosperm, gymno means naked and sperm means seed. So see, this is the seed, but this is the seed, right? But the seed, say this seed is not well covered by fruit. Say if it is fruit, so this fruit is not present where? In gymnosperm, because this seed is naked. Okay, but what you are finding, this is the talk of gymnosperm. But whenever you will talk about the angiosperm, see this fruit, this seed is well covered by this fruit. So fruit is present, which is going to enclosed seed protect as a protective covering. So this is very important characteristic feature of angiosperm. Now, second and very important, this is a double fertilization. This double fertilization was first time described by Nowoskin in Lilium and Fritillaria plant. We will study in detail during sexual reproduction of flowering plants. But a nutshell, you must know about the double fertilization. What this double fertilization is. See, what happened? We have this embryo sac. In embryo sac, we have, yes, these are the synergids, and this is the female gamete. Yes, this is the female or egg gamete. Fine. These are the polar nuclei and these are antipodal cells. Okay. So this I have drawn is the embryo sac. So this is the embryo sac. Okay. And see, in this embryo sac, the very important structure we have is female gamete. Yes, it is haploid, and this is the polar nuclei, and this polar nuclei is N plus N, right? Now see, whenever we have this pollen tube comes, okay, and you will find these are two unequal male gametes. Fine, it's your pollen tube, the tube nucleus. Now, so we have again two haploid male gametes. So what happened? This first male gamete, right? First male gamete fuses with this female gamete. Is it clear? So this fusion will results the formation of zygote. Yes, it is diploid 2N, and this zygote will finally get nurtured and form embryo, and this embryo will develop as a plant. Is it clear? But I told you this zygote will get nutrition, okay, and this nutrition only comes from endosperm, okay, and this endosperm, how it's come. So this process, yes, first got this point. This process is called, yes, this very process is called fertilization or syngamy or amphimixis. Amphimixis. Fine. Now, these are this important terminology for this process. But again, we have another important process. See, this important process is called trophomixis. Tropho means food, or it is also called vegetative fertilization. It is also known as generative fertilization, right? Now what happened here? You'll find is male gamete and the polar nuclei N plus N, and finally they will form a triploid structure. It's called PEN, primary endosperm nucleus, and this primary endosperm nucleus will give rise to endosperm, and this endosperm provide nutrition here to the zygote that give rise to embryo. Now try to understand. It was embryo. How this after fertilization this embryo will develop, right? And you will find there after fertilization these are endosperm. It's proembryo. Okay, so they get nutrition from this endosperm and finally develop into embryo and finally into the plants. So whenever these two process, fertilization or syngamy and apomixis or vegetative fertilization, they together constitute a very important terminology, and this is called, yes, this is called double fertilization. So double fertilization involves, yes, amphimixis and trophomixis, generative fertilization or vegetative fertilization. Fine. One terminology we can also find what? See, two nucleus is going to fuse, N and this is 2N. So that's why it is also called as double fusion. Syngamy is also called as double fusion. Remember. But whenever you are finding here, you are finding one nucleus from male and two from polar nuclei. So it is also called as triple fusion. So you can also quote double fusion plus triple fusion constitute double fertilization, and this double fertilization is the characteristic feature of, yes, angiospermic plants, isn't it? So by this whole phenomenon you will be asked several questions. How many nucleus are involved in double fertilization? Count. Yes, 2 nucleus, 2 male nucleus, 1 female, 3 and 2 polar nuclei. So total 5 nucleus are involved. Is it clear? The 5 nuclei are involved in double fertilization. How many cells are involved? Yes, 1 cell male, 2 cell male, 3rd cell female and 4th cell polar. So 4 cells are involved in double fertilization. So question may come to you. How many nuclei or how many cells are involved in double fertilization, which is the characteristic feature of angiospermic plants? So I think we have got all the detailed idea about the angiospermic plant characteristics. That is the 3 important characteristics. Yes, first is the presence of xylem vessel, second, presence of seed inside the fruit, third, double fertilization, right? Now sorry, now try to locate when this angiosperm come on the earth, come into the existence, right? So we are talking about the origin, the appearance as well as the dominancy of angiospermic plant on the earth. So see, angiospermic plant is the most advanced and recently developed plant. Recently developed and most advanced, most primitive, you know, we have algae, and this is the most advanced angiosperm. So whenever we will talk about its presence, it appears into Cretaceous period, right? And that era was Mesozoic era. Similarly, that is about 144 million years ago. MYA, this is million years ago, right? So it appeared in the Cretaceous period, and as well as the era was of that Cretaceous period was Mesozoic era, but it dominated all around with its complete colony. That period was Tertiary period, and the era was Cenozoic era. Fine, and that Cenozoic era is about 34 million years ago, right? So this is also important for your origin and evolution of organism, right? In class 12 we will study, question may come that when the angiospermic plant came. Yes, when the angiospermic plant came on the earth, that time there was curfew 144. Remember, curfew were there. That is 144 Maya. Remember 144 Maya? When the 144 Maya was there, that plant came. And the dominancy come in 34 Maya. Maya means yes, million years ago. Fine. So, whenever we talk about the number, since it is very advanced, recently developed, that's why among whole plenty, its number is maximum. Yes, it is the most diversified. It is most diversified as well as having the maximum number. See, both is interconnected to each other. If there is the maximum number, then there will be maximum diversity. It's a very common point. Not need to remember, right? If there is maximum number, then there will be the maximum variety, maximum diversity will be there. Fine. So the maximum number of this very angiospermic plant is yes 0.27 millions. See, I am telling you in a very nutshell. Total we have 1.6 to 7 million organisms we have. Out of that, about 1.2 we have animals, fine, and about 1.5 we have plants. Is it clear? And out of these 1.5 millions we have, see, more than 50%, about 0.27 millions we have only angiosperm. So what will you say? You will have to say that the maximum number among the whole plant kingdom is only angiosperm. And after this angiosperm we have fungi. Okay, by the way, we will study in ecology. So remember, the most diversified plant is angiosperm, having maximum number, and that very maximum number is 0.27 millions, right? And now broadly we can classify this angiosperm into monocots and dicots. Yes, monocots, you know, maize, wheat, rice. We have two important family that we have to study further. Yes, remember, Liliaceae family, lily family, and Poaceae, wheat family, we have to study everywhere. And similarly, whenever we talk about the dicots, maximum number we have related the mustard family, Brassicaceae, potato family, Solanaceae, isn't it? Pulse family, Fabaceae. So these are the member of dicot plants. So now know the important scientist associated to this angiosperm. Yes, B. Puri. He is supposed to be the father of Indian plant morphology, while P. Maheswari, Panchanan Maheswari, yes, he is called as the father of Indian plant embryology. Yes, he wrote a very important book, An Introduction to Angiospermic Plant. Okay, so these two important scientists we have. Now, see, this is the GTS, right, where you will study how we have events. These are the events, as I told you. See, the first angiospermic plants came into the Cretaceous period, right, and the era was Mesozoic era. Dominancy was in the Cenozoic, and this is the tertiary before this quaternary. Right now, so these are the very important scale, time scale, geochronological time scale. We will study in detail during the origin and evolution of organism. Yes. Now analyze yourself by this small and very interesting topic of only what is angiosperm. So these are 5 questions. You go through this question, answer properly, and later on you have to check your answer. The question we have to reply yes, number of cells and nucleus involved in trophomixis. I told you about the trophomixis. Remember, this is the vegetative fertilization. This is the triple fusion. So you have to answer. I will not answer you. You have to again tell you the number of cells and nucleus involved in the amphimixis. This amphimixis means syngamy or fertilization, generally generative fertilization. Now add on and find out total number in during double fertilization. Similarly, you have to tell angiosperm is characterized by all except. So you know first which is characterizing the angiosperm, and remaining will be your answer. 5th question we have reductional biology deals with, very important, and from your NCERT question might be the part of your next forthcoming NEET question, because everything is concerned to your NCERT Gita right now. So do it all and you will get this very answer, but I will not give you details, right? And okay, so this I just told about the angiosperm, and whenever you talk about the diversity of angiosperm, yes, diversity, before that do this question and get your answer correctly. So thank you.